It is not fair for him to be in that weight class. They need to calibrate them scales. We don't know how he makes that weight. All stuff. There is some kind of trickery going on in boxing that nobody wants to talk about.
Who he had beaten once before in a controversial fight where Tszyu was bleeding very badly. And before he fought him in a rematch, Tszyu had been knocked out. So he beats Tszyu, and then he beats, Thurman, who's been very inactive, moved up in weight, and was a huge underdog for those reasons.
Do you want to be undisputed, or what's your ultimate goal in the ring?
There was an idea of becoming undisputed at one time, but as of right now, it's so much politics. Look with the WB. I was a very unified champion, but all these things that don't line up with us, you can't. It's a business as well. So if you're not going to work with me, I can't really work with you either. So.
Some figures within the boxing community have raised concerns about Sebastian Fundora, suggesting that his approach during the fight against Keith Thurman may not have been entirely fair. At the same time, Rolly Romero has openly questioned whether Fundora truly fits in that division. He hinted that there are subtle, often overlooked tactics in boxing that rarely get discussed publicly. These comments have fueled strong reactions, igniting ongoing discussions and disagreements throughout the sport.
Think about the sustained beatings that he passes out. When he fights, it's the way he gets on top of people and just destroys them.
Man, he over there trying to chop everybody's head off. I'm telling you like this, man. I sit there, man. I just look. I'm like, there's no way. Like you gotta go over there and just like boom, right on the top like that, right? Hope for the best,
A boxing fan took to X to express frustration, describing Sebastian Fundora as having an unfair advantage. The post suggested that if fighters in the 154-pound division chose to avoid facing him, it would be understandable. The fan also questioned whether someone with his physical reach should be competing in that weight class, which quickly fueled wider discussion among boxing followers. During the bout, Keith Thurman suffered severe facial damage, leading some observers to question whether standard gloves and punching power alone could account for the extent of the injuries. This led to speculation from certain individuals about possible glove alterations. Even after the fight was stopped, Thurman appeared unhappy with the referee's call to end the contest.
Conditioning, he's a volume puncher, and I think it's just that little bit of a press that he was putting on that, let that referee feel, the way that he felt to jump in. But, he was pressing. He was opening up. He was starting to throw wide. And that's where, the veteran has an opportunity to shine. I'm telling you, man, the fans were loving it. The action was getting real. There was no need to just stop it right then and right there, But, once again, I'm not that beat up. I can fight more. And we'll see what happens, man. But it was a good fight. I wanted a great fight. And I think if it went just a few more minutes, something great would happen. Or maybe I would have got dropped. And then, at the end of the day, I can...
According to reports, Sebastian Fundora is not actively chasing an undisputed title. The reasoning behind this is a belief that other sanctioning organizations may not offer the same level of support he receives from the World Boxing Council. Because of that, he appears focused on maintaining his position within the WBC, valuing its backing rather than pursuing titles across multiple governing bodies.
But I'm comfy with the WBC. I still think I'm recognized as the best. I think I'm the best. So, let's just make these...
A user on X shared a critical opinion, accusing someone of masking their true stance by speaking calmly and choosing their words carefully, which intensified ongoing criticism within boxing discussions. At the same time, Sebastian Fundora credited his performance to consistent and demanding training. He explained that his preparation began back in August, and that level of dedication played a key role in how he performed in the ring against Keith Thurman.
My performance, of course, I think it was a great performance. Just a lot of training in this camp, We've been training for him since August August of last year. So, you know, it was unfortunate that we couldn't fight in October, but, you know, we stay training, we stay getting ready for this former Hall of Famer and you know, show tonight. I take my hat off to Keith. Of course, he's a great former champion. Like I said, a future Hall of Famer for sure. But no, we trained very hard for this fight, and we made sure that we crossed our T's and dotted our I's, so that performance from him wouldn't be nothing for us to, nothing crazy for us to handle. I'm very comfortable with the WBC. I've been saying this over and over again. I'll fight these guys. I'll unify with these guys, but I'll probably drop the belt right after.
Bernie the boxer questioned Sebastian Fundora over his opponent's selection, suggesting he could have chosen a different matchup. He pointed out that with several alternatives available, the decision to face Keith Thurman appeared deliberate, implying the pairing created a significant imbalance that worked in Fundora's favor.
Keith Thurman, bludgeoned, battered, bruised, didn't knock him down, but did everything else.
Man,
talk to us about the matchup.
Keith Thurman had a hill to climb. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing with Fundora. And man, that layoff didn't help him. Man, like I was just telling my boy Ramon, I was thinking he should have fought old boy first. Should have fought Charlo first. I would like to see that first. Maybe scrap the whole thing. You know, they tried to make this thing twice and it didn't go. So I think they Fundora shouldn't have been held up. He should have been put with somebody else, even though I think he hurt himself the second time. So the first time Keith Thurman hurt himself, then the second time, boom, and then old boy hurt himself. But it was a good fight, man. Keith Thurman, he showed his heart, he showed his guts. You know what I'm saying? He landed some shots in between, and you know, but they didn't face Fundora.
Allegations surrounding Sebastian Fundora are not appearing for the first time. Teddy Atlas pointed back to his earlier bout with Tim Tszyu, where Tszyu sustained a serious cut and experienced vision issues during the fight. That incident also led to similar suspicions from some observers, who questioned whether his equipment or in-ring methods played a role.
But before we go too crazy, remember the guys that he's beaten recently. He beat Costas, he beat, what's his name, Zoo. He beat Zoo, who he had beaten once before in a controversial fight where Zoo was bleeding very badly. And before he fought him in a rematch, Zoo had been knocked out. So he beats Zoo, and then he beats, you know, Thurman, who's been very inactive, moved up in weight, and was a huge underdog for those reasons. So let him beat somebody maybe a little bit of a higher level of thought.
Jose Benavidez Sr. reacted to Sebastian Fundora's TKO victory over Keith Thurman, pointing out the clear physical advantages in play, including Fundora's age and notable height. He also mentioned that Thurman's limited activity and overall condition heading into the fight made the matchup less balanced, emphasizing the gap between the two competitors.
To be honest, I already kind of knew that, you know, Fundora super young right now, super tall. Then Keith Thurman, you know, at the end of the day, you know, he was a great fighter, he was a good fighter, but he had a lot of tough fights. But, you know, I thought Keith was going to give him a little bit of trouble, you know, and take him to deep waters and test him a little bit. But, you know, when Fundora threw the right hand the first time, he kind of got him, and, you know, that's when like, oh, man, you know, Fundora, I think it's too much from Fundora. Looked really good. He used his distance and body shots and straight punches and everything. I think, in my opinion, he looked really good. And Keith Thurman, you know, he tried. And it was a great stoppage, in my opinion. You know, it's good. You know, when they stopped the fight and I saw his face, I was like, damn, you know, it was a good stop.
A boxing fan shared a post on X criticizing the matchup, describing Sebastian Fundora as an overwhelming opponent even before the fight began, and stating that the gap between the fighters became even more evident during the contest. The comment reflected increasing frustration among viewers regarding the perceived lack of balance in the bout. Chris Algieri offered a detailed breakdown of Fundora's TKO victory over Keith Thurman. He pointed to Fundora's unusual ability to deliver short uppercuts despite fighting at long distance, describing his style as a difficult challenge for Thurman to figure out. Algieri also addressed Thurman's condition, noting reduced activity levels, less mobility, and difficulty dealing with Fundora's 80-inch reach. He reflected on Fundora's earlier fights, when his style appeared awkward, and contrasted that with his current form, highlighting his development into a more composed and effective fighter. According to Algieri, Fundora relied heavily on his jab in this bout, throwing it frequently, around 44 times per round, while mixing in precise power shots. He explained that Fundora maintained a consistent approach throughout, controlling the action without needing to significantly adjust his strategy before the fight was ultimately stopped.
You know, he throws a rear uppercut from long range. He throws a lead uppercut from mid range. So he's a wildly dangerous puzzle to figure out. And Keith had no answer. And I guess in hindsight, that's probably not that surprising. Keith was not a 54-pounder. But yeah, it was underwhelming, I should say.
I expected a little more from Keith. Talks the big game. You know, had that illustrious run at 147, but ultimately, like I said, Father Time over one time. Father Time gets everybody. He just looks slow. The legs weren't there, and also you're fighting a guy like you said with the 80-inch reach, and is also knows how to use it now. That's what we're seeing from Fundora. Is first couple of fights of his career when he was fighting.
While Chris Algieri recognized the improvements shown by Sebastian Fundora, he also stated that Keith Thurman did not deliver an effective performance, which in his view reduced the overall competitiveness of the fight. He explained that, despite Fundora's clear control, the outcome didn't provide many new insights due to Thurman no longer being at his peak level. Algieri added that at 28 years old, Fundora is now moving into the strongest phase of his career and should be matched against top-tier fighters in the 154-pound division. He mentioned names such as Virgil Ortiz Jr. and Jaron Ennis as more accurate measures of his current standing. He concluded by noting that Fundora has transitioned from an unusually tall and somewhat unrefined prospect into a serious contender, but emphasized that facing elite opposition is necessary to properly evaluate his level.
Zoo fight was impressive. The second Zoo fight is where I think now Fundora can settle in now, and this is like what he's going to be. He's going to be a guy that pumps his jab. He's going to be a guy that throws power shots and lands power shots. I mean, his jab was really impressive. He threw 44 jabs per round in this fight. We're talking about a guy that never used to throw the jab. We always wondered, why does he fight on the inside when he has a bajillion-inch reach advantage over his opponents? But he's now settling in, and he started with the jab, and then he didn't even get out of first gear. Like, did you see? I didn't see Fundora exert any extra energy in this fight. He stuck behind his jab and threw short, concise power shots and just kept finding a home for them until the fight was ultimately stopped. I think Fundora is really coming into his own, but we gotta see him now with an elite level.
Winky Wright looked back at Sebastian Fundora's win over Keith Thurman, pointing out the consistent forward pressure Fundora maintained from start to finish. He explained that Thurman's strategy of staying mobile and constantly circling the ring, intended to create opportunities, ended up costing him valuable energy early in the fight. According to Wright, that movement, along with efforts to remain hard to hit, worked against him by accelerating fatigue and reducing his effectiveness on offense. As the fight progressed, Fundora took advantage by continuing to press forward, keeping Thurman on the back foot and limiting his chances to respond. Wright noted that this dynamic, steady pressure from Fundora combined with Thurman's high output of movement played a major role in how the fight unfolded, ultimately leading to Thurman tiring sooner than expected.
Part of the game, Fundora's a tough person to fight, tall, rangy, tough, and he threw a lot of punches and Keith had a little long layoff, and no excuse, man, he just a tough fighter. He's just tough to beat, and then Keith had to do what he had to do, you know what I'm saying?
Do you think, was there any adjustments you feel that were lacking in there?
Yeah, it was. I think he was doing too much movement. That's what got him kind of tired with his legs, and then he couldn't do the things that he wanted to do. But, Fundora was just trying to put the pressure on him. And like I said, it's been a while for Keith fighting, and then fighting somebody at that size. This is difficult. People can say what they want. You could do this, you could do that, but you ain't never fight nobody 6'6", 80-inch reach, and love to fight. So.
Keith Thurman spent years aiming for high-profile matchups, particularly a fight with Tim Tszyu. However, injuries repeatedly disrupted those plans. At one point, he even traveled to Australia to compete on an unrestricted card, hoping to finally make that showdown happen, but it never came together. Eventually, Thurman was paired with Sebastian Fundora. The fight offered Thurman the opportunity he had been seeking for so long, while giving Fundora a marquee opponent to elevate his own profile. From the opening bell, Thurman struggled to adjust to Fundora's exceptional height and reach, physical attributes difficult to replicate in training sessions. Fundora maintained forward pressure and controlled the pace, while Thurman tried various strategies but could not land any significant shots. By the second round, Fundora landed a perfectly timed left hand that buckled Thurman's knees, marking the start of a dominant and one-sided performance.
Coming to Australia to fight on a no-limit card to hopefully do enough to secure that Zoo fight eventually, but that would never materialize, and instead Thurman would end up finding himself fighting Fundora. Thurman was given the opportunity he's been chasing for years, and Fundora was given the big name he's been chasing also. So what ended up going down? Well, in the opening rounds, Thurman was clearly just trying to figure out how to approach Fundora. The reach, the height, it's something almost impossible to replicate in sparring. So the first couple rounds was really Fundora pushing the pace, whilst Thurman was trying different things just to see if he could even land anything. And in round 2, Fundora threw probably the best shot of the fight, a well-timed left hand which buckled Thurman's knees. But Thurman would see out the round, but from this point on, Fundora was almost in complete control. Thurman really had no end.
By the 5th round, the fight had turned entirely one-sided. Keith Thurman was taking consistent punishment while barely landing any effective shots of his own. The visible damage on his face made the situation clear, and the referee stepped in to stop the fight, prioritizing Thurman's safety as he was unable to defend effectively. This win firmly established Sebastian Fundora as a serious contender in the 154-pound division. Unlike earlier stages of his career, he now fully leverages his height and reach, controlling the fight's distance while maintaining relentless pressure. Thurman, on the other hand, appeared far from his former prime. Years of inactivity and missed opportunities left fans both concerned for him and reflective on what could have been.
Round 5, it was just one-way traffic from here on out. There was almost nothing coming back from Thurman, and his face showed the story of the fight. And in the next round, this pressure kept going. Fundora kept laying it on, pushing Thurman onto the back foot, which caused the referee to step in to stop the fight. He saw too much. Although Thurman was still moving, he wasn't really throwing anything back, and he was copying too much damage. It was common sense why the ref stepped in to stop it. But with this win, Fundora has cemented himself as one of the toughest champs at 154. The Fundora we saw against Mendoza is dead. He now really knows how to use his advantages beautifully. He didn't give Thurman space to breathe. He controlled that distance, laid it on him, and barely got hit.
Liam Goff shared his thoughts on Keith Thurman's career and his recent bout with Sebastian Fundora. He reflected on Thurman's prime as welterweight champion, citing standout victories over Sean Porter in 2016 and Danny Garcia shortly afterward. During this period, Thurman held unified titles at 147 pounds and appeared to be at the peak of his career. Goff highlighted how long periods of inactivity disrupted Thurman's trajectory. He missed all of 2017 and 2018, returned to face Jose Lopez in 2019, and then suffered a loss to Manny Pacquiao. Subsequent years included only occasional fights against opponents, such as Mario Barrios and smaller contenders, before finally stepping into the ring with Fundora. According to Goff, these extended breaks cost Thurman his prime, leaving him past his best when facing top competition. He argued that, given Thurman's decline since the Pacquiao fight, this matchup was questionable, and that Thurman was no longer deserving of a world title opportunity.
Love watching him. He was one time, he then turned into run time, as many people called him, but he still had really fun fights. Like his fight against Sean Porter in the Barclays Centre back in 2016, 10 years ago now. That was a great fight. It was competitive, it was close, but it was action from start to finish. It was brilliant. He then goes and he fights Danny Garcia. And that wasn't as fun, but it was still a good fight. And it was still Danny Garcia. I think Danny Garcia was still, peak Danny Garcia at the time. It wasn't that long removed from the Amir Khan fight, 5 years, but it's still reasonably good Danny Garcia. And you're thinking, right, Keith Thurman, the world's at your feet right now. You're unified champion at 147 pounds. Floyd Mayweather was getting ready to fight McGregor. You could be saying right now that he's gone, I'm the guy, this, that, and the other. You'd Kell Brook with so many things going. So many good options, so many good opportunities. And he sits out well over a year. In fact, he sits out the whole of 2018, and that was March 2017, so it was early in the...
Liam Goff reflected on watching Keith Thurman in the ring today, noting that it's difficult for fans because of how dominant he appeared during his prime. Regarding Sebastian Fundora, Goff admitted that early in his career, he wasn't particularly impressed. He described Fundora as an athletic and physically gifted fighter, but somewhat awkward and unpolished inside the ring. Over time, however, especially following his bouts with Tim Tszyu, Fundora has matured into a formidable and dangerous contender. Goff highlighted the clear contrast between Thurman's lost potential and Fundora's steady rise. He concluded that Thurman's extended periods of inactivity made the matchup less meaningful, while Fundora's progression signals the emergence of a new force in the 154-pound division.
Early March at that. He sits out the whole of 2017, the whole of 2018, comes back against Josecito Lopez in January. I think it was Josecito Lopez anyway. In January 2019, doesn't look good in that fight, and then loses to Manny Pacquiao. Spends, 3 years nearly out of the ring? Fights Mario Barrios, and wins that. And then has another, 3 years of inactivity to then fight Brock Javez, a guy who had previously lost at 140 pounds. And I think he'd fought even lighter than that, to now getting this fight with Sebastian Fundora. I have described the last 7 years of Keith Thurman's career like that, because there's been so little to talk about. I don't understand it. I don't get where the inactivity came from. I don't get the reason behind it. I don't get that he takes these 2-year breaks, comes back, has one fight, and then waits another 2 years and then gets a world title shot. To me, it's just ridiculous.
That wraps up today's video. Make sure to stay tuned for what's coming next.